Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the STEM Heroes podcast. My name is David Young. I'll be your host. And in this episode, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about what the STEM Heroes podcast is. Consider this a bit of a trailer, so to speak, so you know what's coming up in the episodes ahead. I'm going to tell you what this podcast is, who it's for, what you're going to hear on it, why you might want to stick around to listen to some more episodes, and how you can get involved. So let's dive right in. First off, what is STEM Heroes podcast? Well, it's a podcast where we're going to be bringing you stories about STEM innovators that are bringing new technologies into the classrooms and teaching it to students, changing the trajectories of their careers and the opportunities that they have. With the episodes we've recorded so far, I've mostly been talking to teachers, but we're willing to talk to teachers, students, administrators, really anybody else who has a connection to STEM and students that are doing really, really cool, interesting things that get kids excited and that open new pathways for them to explore careers and maybe do some things that they thought they wouldn't do. Now, on this podcast, we mostly cover things in the world of drones and some robotics, some autonomous vehicle type stuff. And that's because I run a company called Drone Launch Academy. We've had online courses for the past 7 years. We do a lot of FAA exam prep for the commercial drone exam. If you want to get your drone license, we teach a bunch of other industry application courses. But in the last year or so, we've been working with a lot more schools after getting requests for curriculum and help from different teachers on how to teach drones in schools. And our company has two other podcasts out there. Number one is the Drone 1K podcast, where we interview different drone entrepreneurs who have different drone businesses and get their stories. Another one is called Your Drone Questions Answered. I do not host that one. It's hosted by a guy named John Dicko. And basically, we just go around and we figure out what questions people have about drones. We bring in experts and we interview them to get the answers. We didn't have anything for the sort of K-12, college level, school STEM arena. And so I wanted to create some content for those people who are interested in drones, but they're more at the middle school, high school, post-secondary level, and give them some helpful resources and maybe some inspiration when thinking about STEM, when thinking about drones and what options are out there. So the target audience of this podcast is if you are a teacher interested in STEM, if you're a career tech administrator, if you're a CTE or career tech education coordinator, if you're a principal at a school and you're thinking about doing more STEM stuff, if you're a student and you just like STEM activities, there's some cool stories on here about what other students are doing around the country. And what I hope you'll get out of this podcast is you'll find some good stories and resources and some inspiration. So stories about, hey, here's what other schools are doing with drones, with drone curriculum, with technology. Hey, here are some funding sources that they found, and here are some grants that they got. I want to get the juices flowing for you on what is working in other places around the country. What are other teachers doing where they're having success? I asked them too, hey, in the classroom, what have you done that doesn't go well? So they give some examples of, hey, I took these tiny little drones outside, I put them in the air and they actually just blew away. We couldn't get them down. So we have some lessons learned on this podcast for if you are thinking about implementing some STEM stuff in your classroom, some do's and don'ts, resources for funding, where people are getting their money from, some ideas on funding some of these programs, because let's face it, drones cost money, and then just overall storytelling and fun and inspiration. We have a lot of really cool, interesting stories about kids who maybe had special needs and they didn't think that they actually could fly a drone or that they'd have the capability to do it, seeing them succeed. And we even have one podcast where one of the instructors starts crying because he's so moved by some of the stuff that happens in a student's life. So it's really cool just to see the way STEM and some of these technologies can open doors for students that they didn't think they might be interested in before. And they open up new career paths where they thought, hey, I never even thought about this before. So that's the main thing I hope you take away from this podcast. And I really try to make it not to just regurgitating a bunch of facts or just tell me what you do, tell me what you did, but I try to get some of the actual stories of the students in the classroom and actual impact it's making in their life, along with some of the helpful information and resources to help you do the same thing if you're interested. So a little bit about me. I'm the host of each episode. My name is David Young. My background is I first started off going to flight school. I got my private pilot certificate, like basically a pilot's license, back in 2007. I went to the Florida Institute of Technology for a year. Then I switched it up, decided maybe I don't want to be a pilot because I was terrified of flying small airplanes. I went and got a degree in accounting, ended up working for the FBI for about 7 or 8 years, doing some budget analyst type work, and then doing some forensic accounting, doing some fraud, white collar stuff. I got my CPA license there, and I ended up getting a master's degree in finance, but then had a total career switch in 2015 when drones were becoming more popular, because initially, if you wanted to fly a drone for commercial use, you had to have a pilot's license. And I had a pilot's license back in 2015. I thought, well, shoot, I'm just going to do this on the side. This will be fun. Well, that grew, and then eventually the FAA came out with the Remote Pilot Certificate, which is a specific license just for drones, and you have to take an exam to be able to get that license. So in 2015, I was looking into this. 2016, they came out with the license, and I decided I was going to start a little side gig, and I made a prep course for that exam, worked with a bunch of other industry experts, different attorneys, former Air Force colonel who used to be in charge of all weather for the Pentagon. They partnered with me to make this course, and we started with that, and then as it grew bigger, I quit the FBI, did that full time. And then we created a bunch of other industry courses. I would go find someone who's doing really cool things in an industry who knows something really well, convince them to make a course with us. We'd partner together and we'd make an online course about that. And this has been all for just primarily the workforce and sort of adult learner courses. And as we've done that for the last 7 years or so, we kept getting schools coming to us and saying, hey, we want to kind of implement some of this in our curriculum. We want to teach drones. We want our students to know how to do this. So we started working more and more with schools, which led us to this podcast. Now, on this podcast, we're not going to be selling anything. I don't even really talk about our products, our courses, none of that stuff. The whole goal of this is to bring helpful, valuable content to you, hopefully make it entertaining, inspirational, and valuable. You're not going to hear sales pitches in here. Most of the people that I'm interviewing have never even used our stuff before. I'm just finding them around the country, people who have cool stories. And so that's my focus in this podcast to bring to you. So we're going to do this podcast in seasons. The first season is going to have about 10 episodes. So not including this one, there's going to be 10 episodes. And we're going to release those every single week on Tuesdays. And we'll send emails out about that. So if you're not on our email list, just go to dronelaunchlearning.com. So Drone Launch Academy is our normal business with our courses for adults. And Drone Launch Learning is the branch of the business that works with schools. So if you go to dronelaunchlearning.com, you should see some information about the podcast there, but you'll also see a spot where you can get on our email list. And right now we're just sending out updates about the podcast when we release a new episode, what it is, where you can listen to it, and all that fun stuff. We're going to be putting these on YouTube. They're video interviews, but we'll also put them on every single podcast platform. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere else where there's a podcast, this will probably exist. Now, we've already got all of our guests lined up for season 1, but if you have a good guest in mind for season 2 or future seasons, since this trailer will probably be around for a long time, I want you to email me. My email is david@dronelaunchacademy.com and just say podcast guest recommendation and let me know who you think might be a good guest. If there's someone out there that is doing really cool stuff with drones and has cool stories of students, let me know. I really try not to get people from companies on here. I'm not bringing them on to like pitch their stuff or their solution. The whole goal is to get educators, students, administrators on here to tell stories of students and tell stories of things that are working for them to provide inspiration for other educators out there. So if you know someone who fits that description, let me know, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. We will also be giving away some t-shirts for people who want to leave a review. So we do this for our other podcast. I'm not going to bribe you to leave a good review. I'm just going to say thank you for taking the time to leave any review at all. So I want you to give an honest review of this podcast. If you think it's terrible, go give it a 1-star review and then shoot it to me in an email and I will send you a shirt. This is not a bribe for a good review. We want to hear your thoughts so we can improve this content and let everyone else know and spread the word to others who might also be interested in the podcast. So at any point, if you leave a review for this, primarily on Apple Podcasts is the best place to do that. If you go leave a review on Apple Podcasts, screenshot it, email it to me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com, and we will send you a STEM Heroes t-shirt. All right, that's about it. The first episode is going to be released on May 21st, 2024. We're going to release 3 episodes all at once. That way, if you want to listen to a few of them, you have them there. And then after May 21st, we're going to release 1 new episode a week, every week until we get to the end of season 10, which is 10 episodes. That runs us to almost the end of June, I think maybe a little bit into July. And then after that, we'll take a short break and we'll start filming and recording for season 2. So thank you everyone for listening along. Thank you for checking out this teaser. Go check out the other episodes. Let me know what you think. Really, really appreciate having you here, giving us your time and your ears or your eyes if you're watching on YouTube. It means a lot to us that you're trusting us with your attention, so I appreciate it. Hope you have a good one. Go out there, be inspired. Take care.